remarks here before we get going. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for all the questions that we're going to cover tonight. A lot of very intelligent, very thoughtful questions. This pension reform proposal affects classified folks, certified folks. It affects retired teachers, existing employees. It affects folks who have not yet got a job. And just as importantly, it absolutely, what happens here, affects our kids. And that's what matters to us. That's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. So, yes, we have a lot of issues with it. And I'll talk more about that through email and as I put things out. That's not from me tonight. I do appreciate our legislators coming tonight to take these questions. And again, I appreciate all of you've done, sending the questions in and being here and showing your support. So after this night is over and in the days to come, I assure you I will do my best to represent you the way I'm supposed to represent you. I will get you the information as best I can and as quickly as I can. And I encourage you, continue to send me questions. I'll get the answers as best I know how. There's a lot of folks out there that are a little bit smarter than me, have been around a little bit longer than me, and I will find out the answers, and I'm digging every day to do that and understand where we stand as it is now. So having said that, what we're going to do tonight, we'll ask if you would just kind of respectfully, hopefully listen to everything that's going on, and then we're going to have an opening, some statements, and we're going to, all your questions, they're going to be asked, and they'll get a chance to respond to them, and then at the end, they'll be able to wrap it up. So hopefully you get a lot of information tonight. That's what we're looking for, and then we'll decide what our next step is as a district. And again, this is all inclusive. We're on the same page here, and I appreciate you. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Carla Embry. Carla is going to kind of get the process going. And again, thank you.
Well, good evening. I am Carla Embry. My job is at the Board of Education as the Community Relations Specialist. So I get the pleasure of asking these questions that you all sent in over these past couple of weeks, and we're just going to take it one by one. I believe we're going to allow both the Senator Embry, who maybe we're distantly related, and Representative Prunty. I believe they have some opening remarks for us, and then we'll start in on the questions. So, Senator Embry.
I'm so glad to be with you tonight. I am your state senator, and it's my privilege to serve you in that capacity. I represent Muhlenberg, Hopkins, Ohio, and Butler County, 115,000 people. I'd like to kind of get this thing underway. Some of my background. I am a retired teacher. I draw the TRS pension. I come from a family of teachers. My grandfather, father, mother, sister, brother-in-law, my wife and I have all been teachers. So and I'm a member of the Butler County Retired Teachers Association. So I think by saying that, you can tell where I stand and where my heart is. Also, I'm very well known for representing the majority viewpoints of my constituents. I don't answer to anyone else but the citizens of the 6th district, the 4 counties I represent. I judge that 2 ways. When we are not in session, mid-April to the end of the year, I attend a minimum of 20 to 25 meetings or events every month, every year, year-round, somewhere in my 4 counties, like this event. And I talk to people. And by the way, when this event ends, I will casually walk out, and I will be glad to talk to any of you about any of your questions as I leave. I work for you, and I listen to you. I also judge that from my contacts, and that depends on the day and what's going on. I can receive from 25 to 200 a day, the higher amounts when we're in session. Those are emails, letters, and phone messages. I'm in my office when we're in session around 6 in the morning, which is 5 Greenville time. I answer all my emails myself. So if you send me an email, you get an answer from me, not from some staff member. My email is cb.embry@lrc.ky.gov. When we're in session, you can also call a toll-free message line. That number is 1-800-372-7181. You tell the operator your opinion. They will, and they take your name, address, and phone number. They will put that on a green slip and deliver that to my office. You tell them who you want that delivered to. You can have it delivered to me or anyone else in the General Assembly, or several people, or everybody on the committee, whatever you want to do. And I also read all my phone messages myself. And sometimes the only person that ever helps me return calls is my chief of staff, my wife, Wanda Lou, who's sitting right over there. She's a volunteer. I recently doubled her salary from 0 to 00. But she occasionally, when I get overwhelmed with calls, she'll help me. Normally, if you don't request me to call you back, I still answer all of them anyway. And I write, and I do this for my letters too. I write a little handwritten message and mail that back to you. So you will know I read it, and your answer is from me. If you see my handwriting, you know it's from me, not from somebody else. I do not use form letters. And I would appreciate when you contact me. It means more to me, and I know you're more engaged if you contact me of your own initiative in your own words. I get a lot of form letters. And sometimes when I call those people back, they have no idea what I'm talking about. So be sure to, it would mean more to me if you contact me in your own words of your own initiative. And I've just told you that I represent the majority viewpoints of my constituents. I have received hundreds of contacts on the pension issue. At this point, I have 3 in favor of it. So that will give you some idea how I'm voting. I think that's pretty clear. So I just wanted to relay that. One other thing before we get started. Because we are here, and we're glad to do that, that does not mean we agree with everything in here. We do not. That does not mean we're voting for it. You just heard what I said, what I'm going to do. Okay, that's my opening statement. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not quite as experienced as Senator Embry, so I have some prepared remarks. Just want to thank you, Carla, and thank you, Mr. Davis, your staff, Melody Epley, Chair of the MCEA, Penny Rogers, UNICEF Director, KEA, Madisonville Office, and Senator Embry for planning this event together. We are here tonight to try to address the questions that were submitted via email to the board office, and appreciate you being here tonight. I'm aware that you're very concerned about your pension, and rightly so. Currently, we have a framework. However, we do not have a bill with all the fine print. It is my understanding that the bill is in statute review, and once that is complete, we will be able to read it for ourselves and organizations such as the KEA, the Kentucky PPC, which is the Kentucky Public Pension Coalition, Kentucky Retired Teachers Association, Kentucky School Board Association, and the Kentucky Association of School Superintendents will all have the opportunity to have their number crunchers analyze the bill and give feedback and input. I know House leadership desires that we have 3 to 4 weeks to get input from constituents prior to a special session. However, they keep reminding us that they will not be the ones setting the date. Only the governor can do that. What I like about the framework, no clawbacks on current retirees, no emergency clause. It stops defined benefits for all legislators, moving them into the same defined contribution plan as other state employees under the KRS board. I personally refused my legislator's pension and was told that by law I had to go into the KRS plan. A fellow freshman, Representative Robbie Mills from Henderson, plans to introduce a bill next session that will allow legislators the choice of whether to receive a pension or not, and I plan to co-sponsor that bill. It puts a cap on excessive spiking by any state worker by aligning the upper limit of eligible compensation for benefit calculation with Social Security guidelines, which is currently at $127,000. Concerns that I have: has the framework been evaluated for the impacts on additional administrative costs, workforce issues such as recruiting and retaining qualified workers, the budgets of cities, counties, and school boards? Is it going to shift the burden to those bodies? How often will actuarial experience studies be done, and will there be an independent, objective actuary? Because bad actuarial assumptions, have been a huge part of the problem, and they were not held accountable for that. Will there be regular review, either annual or biannual, so that things never get this far out of hand again? As a freshman legislator, I've been doing a lot of reading and homework to try to figure out how we got where we are. Unfortunately, many do not want to discuss that, but I feel we need to know how we got here so we don't make the same mistakes moving forward, and I believe all taxpayers deserve to know the truth as well. I've been able to get some information that's based purely on numbers, just facts. The defined benefit plan was set up many years ago, and it was supposed to be pre-funded for each person entering the system so that when they retired, enough money had been put aside to cover their entire retirement. Over the years, enhanced benefits were promised, I believe for political gain, but oftentimes actuarial studies were not conducted to determine what the costs of those enhanced benefits were going to be, and no additional monies were contributed to cover those costs. That is a big reason the unfunded liabilities accrued to such a huge amount. There are other factors as well, but this is one of the major reasons. If we could ever get back to the original plan, and if that means increasing salary so that the defined benefit will be adequate as related to education level, then I do not see why at that point those entering the system could choose whether or not they want a defined benefit or a defined contribution plan. Those coming in were never supposed to be paying for those already retired. It was supposed to be an even playing field from the beginning. And I have a brief one-page outline of that. I've got 25 copies, and I can send it to Mr. Davis to send out if you all want a copy of that. Personally, at this point, there are many aspects of the framework I agree with, but my concerns that I've mentioned before are not answered, and if there aren't changes, that I do not feel I can support the proposal as is. But we will have to wait and see what the final bill states in order to know. Your continued input into the process is welcomed and will be considered. Penny has already addressed one of the concerns and given what I consider a practical suggestion regarding sick days, and I will pass it along. What I have consistently done is when someone has emailed, Facebook messaged me, written me a letter, texted, however it's been communicated, I've put it in a form to pass along to the governor's staff who have been crafting the proposal, whether I personally agreed with it or not. I've tried to do the best of my ability to let your voices be heard in Frankfort by those who needed to hear it. And when Governor Bevins said the hoarding sick days comment, as soon as I heard it, I texted one of his close staff and told him that he was alienating many who had supported him, that those who were going to Keeneland and lying about it didn't have any sick time. So I felt that that was totally out of line, and I let his staff know. So I will conclude in my concluding comments. I have some other things I want to share, but at this point I'll be glad to start with the first question.
Okay, great. So we're going to start with Senator Embry. We're going to just go back and forth. So we'll take the first question with Senator Embry. Why do part-time citizen legislators even receive state pensions?
I have twice in the past, and again, I'm working with Senator Gurgler from Somerset, excuse me. He's one of our freshmen, newer guys. He will work with me in co-sponsoring legislation in the 2018 session to do away with the legislative retirement system. I have tried that twice in the past with others. It has not passed. As you can guess, it's hard getting legislators to vote to do away with their pension, but I think it should be done away with. I don't think we should have a pension. Now, the second best thing is what's in this plan, which you know how I stand on it. But it's one of the things that's good about it. It moves our plan into the KRS plan, puts our money in with the KRS plan, which is the worst funded plan that we have, about 18%. It also makes state legislators move immediately into a defined contribution plan. The other that does not happen to the other plans. It also does this. Legislators, there's about 4 or 5 of them who served 25 or 30 years, with a salary of $35,000 being in the General Assembly, and then took a position with an administration in a high administrative, either a cabinet secretary or a commissioner, earning over $100,000, and when on the high 3, it greatly increased their pension, and that's unreasonable. And this plan eliminates that and says that they will have to only draw a pension based on their legislative salary in the 30,000s per year. I don't know if that'll hold up in court because they make it retroactive in this plan. So there's going to be 5 or 6 legislators whose pension would be cut more than in half. But that's the next best thing I think we could do. I think the legislators, if we had to have a pension, it should be the worst one. But personally, I don't think we should have a pension. And of course that was done years ago, and I don't know what the thinking was, but I'm against it. Okay, thank you.
I just have a couple of comments to add to that. When I asked that question, I was told that years ago there were people that came that weren't real qualified, weren't real educated, and it was difficult if you've had a good person in service, like a county judge executive or someone that was already in office, you couldn't get them, if they were a good person that would serve well in the legislature, that you couldn't get them to leave that position in order to serve, and so that's why it was created. But I do believe if Representative Mills gets the bill passed to let people choose, that would be the next best thing. So I don't know why they get it, but that's what I was told. So.
All right, the next question I'm going to pose to Representative Prunty. It says that I am a world language teacher. When I am absent, there are no subs who are able to teach my language. Because of this, I only take a sick day when seriously required. If the current percentage of accumulated sick days monies will no longer be added on to the last salary year worked, will teachers be allowed to use those accumulated sick days prior to retiring without repercussions?
Okay, let me also just say that I didn't say before. I consulted with Frank Willey, who's a legal counsel for the House Speaker, House Leadership, and Brian Sunderland, who's the Governor Bevin's chief legislative person, to get these answers. And I wrote very quickly and messily and didn't have a chance to type them up. So the answer is no. I mean, yes, you'll be able to use them without repercussions. There won't be any repercussions. But the plan says that school districts can continue to provide payment up to 30% of a retiring member's accumulated sick leave, and payments for accumulated sick leave will be utilized in retirement benefit calculations for those retiring on or before July 1, 2023. So these wouldn't go into effect till 2023. After that date, payments for sick leave will not be utilized for benefit calculations. And Frank told me today that the reason for that was to allow plenty of time to see if that was going to be a problem so they could fix it before we got there. So that was the answer that I received. So.
Thank you. Senator, do you have anything to add? Okay. We'll go with you. Senator Embry, how are the legislators going to find funding to replace the money that was taken out of the teacher pension fund?
Primarily, the 3 previous governors, when they presented us their budgets and asked for a certain amount of money in the pension plans that their staff and actuaries said was needed, they greatly underestimated the amount needed. That went on through 3 administrations, both Republican and Democrat. And they used, I guess, the money they didn't ask for the pension programs in other ways. I would guess to keep from raising taxes, probably. However, in 2016, the first of 4 governors that I've served under, Governor Bevin did recommend $1.28 billion for the retirement systems. Our total state budget is $10 billion per year. That was the largest amount ever put in the pension systems in the history of the Commonwealth. And it's about double what some of the other governors proposed. He plans to recommend $2 billion in 2018, $700 million more than even in 2016. So he is fully trying to fund the shortfall. The shortfall is something like $40 billion. In other words, 4 times our annual budget. So we would have to work on that over about a 30-year period to get it back to where it should be. Because he's doing that's good. That doesn't mean we agree with how he plans to do this, and it doesn't mean that we know where he plans to get that money. We may not agree with that. I don't know. Now the question is, what funding is going to replace it? We do not know. There's many proposals. Raising the sales tax, expanding the sales tax, doing away with the exemptions that where you do not have to pay sales tax. The biggest 2 that would bring in $1 billion, I'm very much against. That would be, again, putting the sales tax on groceries and prescriptions. That would be a very hardship on people drawing pensions on fixed incomes, the low-income people, the working poor. But there are some things that are exempt that could be looked at. Other things being considered, and there's dozens of them, legalizing recreational marijuana, expanded gambling, putting the tolls back on toll roads. It goes on and on. I have no idea what will receive majority approval. I don't know what the governor is going to propose. But when we meet in full session, regular session, in 2018, when we can propose anything we want, there will be many proposals. And something will be approved. I don't know what. In a special session, only the governor can call a special session, and the only thing we can consider is what he puts on the agenda. It's my understanding this will be the only thing on the agenda. So we will have more leeway in January, February, and March. There will be many proposals. The governor will have one, and we'll see what happens.
I read this question differently, and the feedback I got was the money that was taken out. I know I've had many of those form emails too, and talking about when the legislators took money out and so forth. The one time, and you might be able to speak to this, CB, but my understanding was that at the KRS's request in 2008, there was money diverted, not taken out, but diverted to health care, but that was KTRS requested that to go towards health care. But it was paid back in $600 million bond issues 4 years later in 2012. So I've been told that that the money that was, quotes, borrowed, it was never borrowed, it was diverted, and it has been paid back with more interest than it would have had if it had stayed in the investments. But can you speak to that?
That's exactly right. That money went to keep co-pays and so forth low in a health fund. And it was done at that request. That's the only time funds were diverted, and that's been paid back with interest. And that interest was higher than those same funds would have received from the investments that was being made. The money is invested in the stock market. And during the 2008, 9, and 10 in that area, the stock market crashed, and we had a recession. And for the funds to generate the amount of money we need, they need to earn about 7.5% a year. There were years when they lost money or they only earned 1% or 2%. So what you said is accurate.
Thank you.
All right. The next question, Representative Prunty. Why is the General Assembly not doing tax reform before pension reform to have new revenue to pay for the payments back to the pension budget?
Again, my understanding is the payments have already been made back to it as far as, not the unfunded liabilities, but what was diverted. But I was told it's the chicken and the egg, which comes first. They needed to know how much money they needed, what the unfunded liabilities were actually going to be before they could do tax reform, to know how much money they were going to need. So that was the answer that I got when I asked.
Only the governor can put on the agenda what we deal with, and he chose not to put tax reform on the special session agenda. I assume that's the case. That's what he says. He hasn't called a special session yet, but it's my understanding he aims to do it in the tax reform in the regular session. We do not know for sure that the money will be arrived at from a tax increase. It may be from one of the other things I mentioned. I don't know. But that's a good guess. I would say there's probably going to be some tax reform.
Next question, Senator Embry. Can you explain how going to a 401k type of retirement plan will benefit the state workers? Or is it just to benefit the state? Please include dollar amounts, even if it's just a projection.
I don't know an answer. I say I don't know. I don't know what the dollar projections are. However, here's the pluses and minuses, and I'm not a fan of 401k, but I'm going to try to explain it. A 401k, and by the way, this plan has 401a, which is a version of that. That's your money. You keep it. It goes with you wherever you go. A lot of people are mobile nowadays. Young people, has told me, may work 5, 6, 7 jobs during their lifetime. You can take it with you. A defined benefit plan stays. It's you have to collect it as a teacher. You can't whatever's in that account, you can't take it with you to some other place. So I guess the benefit would be if you are a mobile type person and you think you may get some other job other than teaching at some point, you can take that with you. Also, from the state viewpoint, a defined benefit plan, there's no way of knowing how much you're going to pay for that. They don't know whether you're going to be retired 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. They don't know. And so it has no end to it. So it's hard to know exactly how much will have to be put in. And when this was originally set up, the life expectancy wasn't but 65 or 66, and they envision you drawing your pension 6 or 8 years. That's not the case. We draw it much longer. I've been drawing mine 21 years, my pension, for example. On the defined compensation 401k, they know exactly how much money is needed, and whatever that amount is, that's it. When you finish drawing all that out, I don't know if you work 20, 30 years, you may have over $1 million in that account. But once you draw that out, that's it. It isn't replaced by anything. The defined benefit goes on and on till you die. Defined compensation ends when the money runs out.
Just the benefit to the worker is that the worker controls the investments, the independence of that, and the pension is portable. again, like CB said, that state, if there's no ceiling, and so it's an ongoing, increasing cost to the taxpayer over time. So that's kind of it depends on, I guess, whose perspective you're looking at it from. So, but the benefit to the worker is that independent control of the investments and that's portable. And I have heard that some young people are frustrated because they feel stuck in the defined benefit. They'd rather have a defined contribution where they could take it with them if they wanted to change. So.
Next question I'm going to ask to Senator Embry again. Weakening our retirement system is a threat to all state retirees. Can we count on you to take a pro-life stance that protects the lives of retired teachers by fully funding their retirement account?
Of course, I'm for us working toward fully funding the retirement system. We cannot put $40 billion in the system next month, though. It's going to have to be done over a period of time. But, of course, I strongly support that, and we'll vote toward that direction.
Representative James.
I will do my best to support that to the best of my ability within the parameters of all other taxpayers as well. So I have to put it all in perspective. So.
Next question to Representative Prunty. What new ideas are being considered to generate funding for pensions?
Senator Embry's already alluded to many of those. I mean, I get all kinds of suggestions. Many I could consider and some I could not from a moral standpoint. But I haven't heard legalizing recreational marijuana. I keep hearing, well, no, I guess it is recreational. I personally am willing and open to consider medical marijuana with research and facts, some medical research and some support for that, maybe, but not recreational. There's been casino gambling suggested. People were talking about if when the governor kind of hinted at a consumption tax in January, and there was talk about it being a tax on the poor or the elderly, which they could be exempted from that. But I think the thought there was if people were coming in from outside the state for tourism and so forth, there could be a lot of tax generated from that. If you exempted the poor and the elderly, that would be acceptable. But to me, expanded gambling would be a tax on the poor. I think you're tempting people who really don't need to be there doing it. But those are suggestions that have been made to me by people in the system. 1 cent tax. I hadn't heard the bringing back the tolls. Now that's something that my conscience could live with.
Don't think it's legal.
Not legal? Okay, well then we can't do that.
But it's been suggested.
But those are many of the things that he mentioned are what are being floated out there. So that's personally I've wished we could do get some rich person to die and donate a bunch of money and cover it all, but I don't think that's going to happen. But anyway,
they also mentioned higher taxes on beer, bourbon, alcohol,
tobacco,
and tobacco. Now, tobacco is a declining source of revenue. We're urging, and we have many programs urging people to stop smoking, and they're working. So each year we have less people smoking. So to pin our dependency on a cigarette tax, I don't think would be wise, because that's a declining source of revenue, and we'd have to look at something else pretty quick as well. But there's many, many suggestions. Something will be passed. I don't know why.
Okay. Next question, Senator. What about teachers' sick days they have built up? Are they in danger of losing those sick days?
According to this, no. Anything that you have earned, you keep. The sick days that you have will count toward your pension. I asked the question to one of the attorneys that worked on that committee. By the way, the committee that wrote this was made up of the leadership of the House majority, the Senate majority, and some members of the governor's staff and a bank of attorneys. We did not serve on that committee, nor have we attended any of those meetings. But I asked one of the attorneys about that. I said, I have a teacher in my church who's taught for 32 years. She has a lot of sick days built up, and if she lost them, she'd lose about $300 a month. Would she lose them? And he said no, that she can continue to keep all sick days that she's earned until the year 2003. So she
23.
2023. So she could continue teaching. She wants to continue teaching. Any sick days that she accumulates during that time, she can count toward her retirement. After that time, she would be paid by the school board for those days. I think it's, 30%, something like that.
Yeah, 30%.
But he also said that during those next 3 years, until 2023, if this became some type of problem, they'd look at it again. But that's the plan. In this plan would be to let the sick days you've earned count toward retirement, and any that you accumulate until 2023 would also count. So that's the plan.
And basically, it said none goes until 2023, and how it's handled will be a board decision, a local board decision. I'd like to kind of go back to number 7 because I kind of missed a point that I was going to make. The best way to generate funding would be to grow the economy and reduce wasteful spending. And I know that I spoke to someone recently who works in state government. It's not teaching, but in state government, who said when he first came in, he saw a bunch of waste. So there may need to be some workforce reduction in the state government. A lot of government is bloated, and you could save money there and put it towards the pension. But I'm not really sure. Like I say, like CB said, we won't really know until we get there and find out what the plan is. But economic growth would be great to bring more jobs and more taxes from that. So.
Okay, next question. Representative, why should teachers be forced into another type of retirement system when we have already been forced into legislatures such as WP and GPO, especially when I have had to obtain outside jobs to support my family and I have earned my Social Security credits?
The WP and GPO, Social Security issues are federal issues. And it's my understanding that for years the legislature has they've filed resolution after resolution after resolution to urge the federal government in Congress. They'll have to take care of that to urge them to change that. And personally, I don't think it's right if you have accrued Social Security, and I personally don't think it's right that if your spouse passes away that you can't get their Social Security simply because you've been in a different system. And I'm be willing to file another resolution, I'm sure you would do too, in the Senate to urge Congress to do it. You all can write letters to McConnell, Rand, Comer, and ask them for the same. And if they got a bunch of them, then maybe eventually they would change it. But really, that's a federal issue. So.
TV, do you have anything to add?
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Senator, do you think it is acceptable for state employees to pay for this problem?
They should not pay any more than just the regular match that they take out of their check. There shouldn't be any extra that you should pay, so I would be against that.
Well, and the answer I got when I asked today was that the state is going to pay the unfunded liability, and it's going to be over 30 years. But they're going to try to pay off large amounts and get it down, get rid of it, so that our state credit rating can go back up. But the state is committed to paying the unfunded liability. So.
Representative, will teachers still be able to get insurance after they have worked 20 years?
The answer I got was yes. Nothing's being taken away as far as insurance.
Anything to add, CD?
Yep.
Senator, can you explain how it is fair for the state to keep teachers from drawing their spouse's Social Security should something happen to them? It seems like Kentucky punishes teachers, and they are the ones who help make all other professions possible.
That was a decision made years ago. I don't think it was a wise decision. The committee that worked on this document worked very hard trying to correct that with the federal people so that spouses could draw the Social Security of their spouse, Social Security. They had 4 meetings, one in Atlanta. However, I'm told that the Kentucky Retired Teachers Association told the committee to back off that they didn't really want them to pursue that, so they dropped it. So that's how it stands.
Representative, do you have anything to add?
No, again, it's a federal issue. So, like I said before, I just need to contact our senators and representatives up there.
Okay, Representative, the statement that really concerns me is future retirees will be required to suspend their pension to accept a full-time, which is more than 100 hours per month, position in the public sector for the duration of their reemployment. What exactly does public sector mean? Does that mean other jobs within the public school system, for example, double dipping, or does that mean any type of public job? If it is any type of job in the public setting, how can that even be proposed? This concept would be preposterous. Many of us will need to and will plan to pursue other jobs once we're retired from teaching.
Well, public sector would be public or federal position, not a private. If you went out and got a job in the private sector, you could draw your full salary and work in the private sector. It's less than 100 hours, and it's here. Let me see if I can find it. It has to do with being considered full-time. It's 100 hours at a month. Is it a month, CB? Do you remember? It has to do with less than 100 hours is considered part-time. You would be able to draw your retirement with less than 100 hours. If it's more than 100 hours, that would be considered full-time. You would freeze drawing your pension. You would add to it from your going back. You would add to it and accrue, and then restart it once you fully retired again. Does that make any sense? They just don't want there being a drawing of a pension and then creating another one all simultaneously at the same time. You just have one pension for your career. And so you would freeze it if you were over 100 hours part-time. That's the proposal. You would freeze it if you were working over 100 hours. And it's not, and I can't remember, 100 hours per month. Okay, yeah, 100 hours per month. You would freeze it and then add additional funds to it and then draw it out when you fully retire. But if you were working part-time or working less than 100 hours in the public sector job, you could draw it. Or if you were working in a private sector, you could draw it. So
okay, so
that's my understanding.
I read the question as asking the public sector versus like a state job, such as teachers or a state employee, compared to just another job.
If it's not a state job, it doesn't apply. You can draw your pension and...
If it's not a state job,
Yeah, if it's
not a state or
job.
federal job, you can draw it.
That's the way that reads. I have problems with that. I think you explained it. Sometimes we need teachers in a special subject, language or something. And we have a good retired teacher that can come in and do that. I don't want them restricted to only less than 100 hours. But that's the way it reads, and that's what it means.
Well, I don't think they're restricted to the 100 hours. What it is, they can work 100 hours, but they would be considered full-time.
They won't get their pension. Yeah, they can work all the hours
they would be adding to it.
Yeah.
So the double dipping, I think, is the issue. So that proposal is trying to eliminate the double dipping. They got it. Whoever submitted the question understood it. So.
Okay, CB, with the limit on the number of hours per month retirees can work, what are the plans for those who feel the critical shortage of long-term subs or in critical shortage areas with no other qualified applicants?
That's another thing I don't like. There's several things I don't like about it. I have no idea what the plans are. I wasn't privy to the discussions and talks. That has not been communicated to any of us, so I do not know.
Okay.
And I do not know either. they don't know for sure that it's going to cause a problem, but hopefully maybe higher salaries might be a way to attract, but that would be local decision, but I don't know either, so I apologize.
Next question, Representative, are there any proposals to help attract new teachers to the profession by eliminating requirements specific to Kentucky, such as the requirement to obtain a master's degree?
And I was told that's not really a pension question, that's an education question, so it's not really appropriate for this. It's not applied to this bill, so.
Okay. Bill the same. Okay. Senator, the 3% of the employee's salary will be used as additional contribution to fund retiree health care program. Is this amount to fund our own health care program for ourselves after we retire, or is it the 3% to go into a slush fund to boost the entire retiree health care program?
It's my understanding it's for the retirees, it won't go into a slush fund. I have problems with that too. Of course, they're looking for more money. They need more money. The 3% would bring in more money, but that's almost like a salary cut, and I don't support that. But the way they have it set up, it wouldn't go into a slush fund.
And I was told the same thing. It's just to fund the retired teachers' health care.
Representative, what happens to those of us who already have 27 plus years of experience in the field of education? Will we be immediately moved into the newly defined contribution plan after July 1, 2018 if we do not elect to retire? And what exactly happens to the benefits we have accrued within the old retirement system should we decide to continue working in the education field after July 1, 2018? Do we continue to participate in both plans, or do we cash out of one plan and into the other? I'm not sure how the benefit plan would continue to work for those of us who have already accumulated 27 plus years in the field.
Okay, I was told that you wouldn't participate in both plans, but there would be a 3-year window to stay in the current KTRS plan, and then it would be a seamless transition to the other system, where the defined benefit would stop and then the defined contribution would start. But there would be a 3-year window in order to make that decision.
Senator, do you have anything to add? Senator, will any of these changes to our contracts hold up in a court of law?
There's no way to answer that for sure. At one time I was a judge. There's a large number of attorneys who helped in writing this who believe it will stand up. There's a large number of very experienced and attorneys who do not think it would. Who knows? They would present their arguments to a judge over several days, and a judge would rule. I do not know. There are some provisions that concern me, even if I was for them. The provision to roll back some legislators' pensions, I'm not sure that would hold up in court. I would be for it, but I don't think that would hold up.
And basically, the person I talked to obviously has been involved in drafting the plan, and he said attorneys had been involved in it and they think it will. So, CB would know better as far as being a judge, but...
Okay, next question. Representative, will employees be allowed to choose what 401k administrator is used?
I was told no. The plan will be administered by the Deferred Compensation Authority that's there for all state employees in Kentucky. There's a website, and I think there's counseling on it. There's training on there how to maneuver the system, but it would all be administered by the Deferred Compensation Authority, which is true for all state employees.
Senator, what will the transition look like for employees?
Here again, we don't have the fine print in the bills. I haven't heard the discussion in committee. I do not know what it will look like. Did you get any information on that?
Well, Okay, they just said that they would keep the pension earned and continue working in the new plan, and then collect both at the end. So it's supposed to be a seamless transition, but I mean, it's supposed to be. They think it's going to be simple, but that's kind of the answer I got. So.
Okay. Representative, will the rollover amount include interest earned on previously deposited funds?
And I was told yes, definitely.
Anything to elaborate on that, Senator?
Yeah. I agree.
Senator, what is the state's plan to compensate districts that will now have increased substitute teacher classified costs?
I have not been told of any plan that they have at this point.
No, I mean there isn't one.
Representative, will the state provide guidance through brokers to those opting for the defined contribution plan?
I've been told yes, that there is an educational component built into the deferred comp plan they're referred to. They have investment counselors available, and there's online training now. If you go on the website, you're supposed to be able to look at that and figure out how to work on a 401k and figure that out. But next spring, there's a plan to go out to the districts and have educational seminars across the state to try to help folks with that.
Senator, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay. Senator, how will this impact a district as a whole? Retaining staff, recruiting staff, financial implications of the bill. I'll stop there.
I think it'll be a challenge. I think it'll be, they will have some difficulties. I'm not aware of any plan in this legislation to be of any assistance. Let me mention another thing. It kind of opens the door. This plan does not separate KERS and KRS. I support the separation because, and of course you have employees in KERS, but not separating them. That will mean that school boards, city councils, and county governments will have pretty much of a spike in the amount of money that they need for those retirees. If they had put it together, that would not had they separated it, that would not have happened. I was one of 6 senators that proposed a bill in the 2017 session to separate it. Senator Bowen was the lead sponsor. It failed. We was hoping they would put it in this bill. They did not. So by doing that, that means a hardship will be placed on school boards and city and county governments. What you may have as a result of that is you may see an increase in school taxes, city taxes, and county taxes. And if in the tax reform efforts in the General Assembly in 2018, you might see an increase in state taxes. I think that's way too much of a burden. So I'm sorry that that's not in there, and that's one of the reasons I have the stand that I have.
I was told they don't know, but with regards to what you were talking about in separation, I was told that they said that's a governance issue, not a pension issue, and that still could happen. It just wasn't put in this bill, so I'm not sure if that's going to happen. But that's my concern that I was saying in my opening comments, is the fiscal impact on the local communities.
Anything can be changed by legislation, and we could try to do that in January, but since we failed this year, and if it's not in this, it will be unlikely that they'll be separated.
This next question might have already been answered. I'm going to direct it to a representative. Are the 100 hours per month work restrictions after retirement on public education jobs only, or does it include private and federal government jobs?
Okay.
Doesn't include private.
It's the federal and state. It's not the private. It just applies to the, and it says 100, something about 100 days work. It's 100 hours per month.
Right.
So that question was worded incorrectly, but it doesn't include the private. So, yeah. Did you skip a question?
No. That's all.
I had another one on the original questions, but it may show up later. It's okay.
All right. Senator, why does Governor Bevin say teachers do not want to draw Social Security when we have supported and continue to support the repeal of the government pension offset windfall elimination provision that other government and private sector employees receive?
I have no idea. The governor has not discussed that with me, so, and I haven't with him, so I don't know. You'd have to ask the governor that.
Okay.
I spoke to Brian Sunderland, who's today, and it's Governor Bevin's chief legislative guy, and he said that he's received numerous letters saying they didn't want it from the, I think it was the KEA. It was either KEA, retired teachers. I'm not sure.
Retired
one of the
teachers.
two. Yeah, retired teachers. Okay. But he said that was where that statement came from, was because he had gotten numerous letters about it. So he said the governor actually supports them not having the offset, but he received letters they didn't want it, so that's why it went the way it did. So.
Okay.
I had that same information. It went from the governor's office, so.
Okay. And Representative, why does Governor Bevin say he is against teachers receiving their full pensions and the full amount of Social Security they earned from working in other private sector jobs?
Again, I was told that they didn't know. They were asking when he said it. They thought the question was based on false premise. It said, Governor Bevin and the members of the House and Senate leadership who authored this plan worked to ensure they would not only get their full pension, but that they could add 3 additional years to boost it. On top of that, they will have the opportunity to get a very generous defined contribution plan to supplement the defined benefit. Governor Bevin nor the General Assembly can alter the federal Social Security rules. That's why the D.C. plan offered to teachers is extremely generous. And again, I will pledge to file a resolution to try to urge Congress to change it. But that was the Governor, Brian Sunderland's response.
Senator, do you have Okay, that is all of the questions we received. Either of you are welcome to go if you have closing remarks.
I'm going to do yours first.
Okay. I guess that's all you wanted. I saw a couple that came in late, but I'm trying to see. Maybe that's the same one. Okay. I just want to mention a couple of comments that I've heard along the way through this process. This is not a new issue. It's been going on for years. I know our son-in-law, who's 36, and a friend of his that works in the Daviess County school system both told me, they said when we began teaching 13 years ago, they knew the system couldn't sustain itself. And someone here in the county has even said to me, it's a Ponzi scheme, the way it's set up now. Defined benefits not supposed to be that way, but the way it's set up now, the enhanced benefits, no money covering it, and people thinking the people coming behind them are supposed to pay. That's not the way it was meant to be. So changes do need to be made so that the system will be solvent and actually be there for folks when they do retire. I've heard a retired worker gave me 3 suggestions at a Kentucky State Board Association regional meeting, though she wished to remain anonymous. But she said, I'd be willing to pay income tax on my retirement. And she said if it's between cutting COLAs versus benefits, cut the COLA, and I'd be willing to pay for part of my health insurance. So that was just her offering some ideas. I've heard in our caucus there was a member who said a superintendent in central Kentucky calculated the difference between his defined benefit value and what it would have been if it had been a defined contribution, and he realized he would have made a lot more money in the defined contribution, and he shared that with his representative recently at a ball game. The legislator asked for a PDF chart that we could have to show, so we could have it to show people, to show what the differences might be, just maybe to educate a little bit and enhance people's ideas or whatever. So I haven't seen that. I hope to have it and bring tonight, but I don't have it. And again, I said this earlier, I heard from a young female who feels stuck because she doesn't have portability in her plan. So there are many people all over the map, even within your ranks here in the county. I have family members who are teachers, our son-in-law in McLean County, my sister-in-law and niece in Shelby County. I appreciate all that you do in either the classroom, in the hallways, the cafeteria, the buses, wherever you contribute to enhance the lives of the children and youth in Muhlenberg County. All three of our girls graduated from Muhlenberg South, and I'm a product of Paul G. Blazer High School. I was elected to represent all the constituents of the 15th District, so I have to listen to each and every one of them. I have non-state workers who keep telling me not to put this on the backs of their kids just during the workforce in the form of taxes. Currently, it appears that the funding source right now, at least from my perspective, would be savings on the changes. However, other funding sources would be considered in tax reform. Knowing how much we might be needed is the reason for doing the pensions first, was the answer I received about why not doing the tax reform first. I personally don't want to raise taxes. We've had economic troubles, people have had hard times, and that's not where I want to be if we can get it some other way. But I will commit to each and every one of you what I have said and done from the very beginning on every issue that I voted on. I will educate myself to the best of my ability, take in from all constituents, pray and vote for what I think is most fair to everyone involved. Ultimately, I have to answer to the man upstairs come Judgment Day, and I hope you all can understand that. Again, I welcome your input, continued input as we move forward. Once we get a full bill, please email, call. I've got cards here with my email address, my phone number. Give me your input. I'll take it to folks. I mean, this is the plan as is. With your voices, there may be some tweaks that can still be made before we actually get there to vote, if it gets called. Again, appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I'll be hanging around too if you have any questions, if you want to speak to me one-on-one. So thank you.
Senator?
Yes. I'd like to thank those who set up this forum. I think it's very good. I've attended a similar one in Hopkins County. I've talked to the Ohio County Retired Teachers Association. I'm available to talk to any group that wants me to address them. I welcome that. The educational training and opportunity of our children and citizens is what the future of Kentucky is based on. And without you, the teachers, that will not happen. I'm proud to be with you. As I leave, I will be glad to talk to any of you about anything concerning this or any other issue. I gave you my contact information. I always welcome your concerns and opinions. That's how I function. I base my actions on your contacts and opinions. I'm proud to be with you tonight. May the good Lord go with each and every one of you.
Okay, thank each of you for being here tonight, and I just want to say one more time, representing you folks, because that's who I represent. And there's some tough questions and some tough answers, and I understand this bill or this proposal just came out Wednesday, so it's kind of a quick turnaround. But let me tell you some of my concerns. And I don't have them all. I don't have a piece of paper here, so I'm kind of talking off the cuff just a little bit. For classified folks, the end of this school year, as I see it, sick day, there's an issue there where you kind of better get out or it's going to hurt you some. There's no way for us to replace the classified folks if we have any kind of mass exodus, and you are absolutely essential to what we do. I worry about attracting new teachers with this. It becomes less and less attractive to enter the teaching profession, and we already have a problem attracting teachers as it is. We have an opening and may not have but very few applicants, so this is only going to make that worse. I'm concerned with the proposal as it is for existing employees, a 3%, and I appreciate you saying it's a 3% pay cut. And we've already had one here, and that hurts. So I understand that. So that's a concern because we're trying to figure out how to get back to where we were. And then we have this. So this is specific to Muhlenberg County. It hurts even worse. It worries me that folks with 27 years, basically, as I understand it, you better get out in 3 years or it's going to make a big difference. Now, I don't have the number, but the amount of folks here who have 27 or more years in, who are incredible employees, who are essential to what we do. And if we lose you guys over the next 3 years, there's no way to replace you. I worry about folks, and I'm kind of in this boat myself. At 2023 is a big date. Yes, some things at 2023, you get to keep them. What about folks who are going to retire in 2024 or 25 or so forth? Now, there's a lot of other things that I can go with that I'm trying to understand, but those are things that jump out at me, and we haven't even talked about this, the concerns from a district standpoint, not an individual, but some of their, extra 2% contribution. What if CERS? What if they raise our contribution from 19% to 26 or 28, as we've heard rumored, and that wasn't in there? That would cost our district almost $700,000 a year. So there are several things that are absolutely a big concern. We shouldn't panic, but we should have our voices heard. Make the phone calls. Send the emails. Talk to your friends. They need to know this is going to drastically change the way we have to do business. And who's going to suffer the most? The kids. Shouldn't leave out the retired teachers. I see one every night. She would not be happy with that. Freezing the COLAs, cost of living. This is pre-funded. We've already paid for that. And that's not just a little bit, it's 1.5%, I think. That adds up. I've seen some numbers, maybe $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 over time. Not allowing teachers to come back in. I think there's some confusion on that. I need to make sure I'm understanding that as well. The over 100 hours. Who's going to do our leaves? Who's going to fill in? I personally, at Bremen last year, retired teacher bailed me out. Kept our scores where they should be. They're essential. I talked to a superintendent last week. They said they had 35 folks in administrative roles. This is just administrators, not even getting into teachers. And 27 of those, we're talking about central office and principals, 27 of those out of the 35 in their district would have to leave because they had over 27 years. How are you going to replace that experience? That's not even talking about the teachers, who are even more important. So we have a lot of concerns. Just know that I understand that. I've been in conversations with both of these folks and will continue to be. But there are a lot of points that I don't want to overreact, but it's a big deal. Please have your voice heard. I was hoping we'd have a few more here tonight, but we're live streaming it, so hopefully folks are watching it. But send those questions, send those emails, make those phone calls. Our kids are going to pay the price if we don't make changes in this proposal. Thanks again for coming. Thank you, everyone.